Welcome to the Pill Diaries. This is Craig. I wanted to explain, there's a lot of shills out there, and the problem is there's a lot of finger pointing at people who may or may not be shills.
GPS signal lost.
You can trust me, you can't trust me. You can trust me. If someone says you can trust them, you usually can't trust them. It's just a kind of rule that I have in life. The person I wanted to speak about was George Galloway, one of my countrymen. Well, I can't really call him that, he's a piece of shit. But let's call him a traitor for my country, right? The reason why you know that George Galloway is a complete shill is, first and foremost, he advocates for independence of almost every country in the world except his own, right? You've got to really wonder what's going on there. So basically, let's say you may have watched, if you haven't watched it yet, look up George Galloway, takes on US Senate. The guy is a gifted orator. He speaks like a medieval knight. It kind of annoys me because no one in Scotland speaks like he does. And the thing is, of course, I don't either because I've got a bit of a mixed up more international accent now. But you know, he's got a fairly strong Scottish accent, but speaks like it's weird. It's extreme. Anyway, I think it kind of marries up with his arrogant attitude. He pretends to be for the little guy, but actually what he is a complete shell for the UK system. He doesn't see himself as Scottish, he sees himself, I am British. So that's the way he'll explain away things. I am a patriot, I am a British patriot. Because he speaks so weird. And it's just strange how, if he is a British patriot, how he injects himself into Scottish politics so much. He's just fuck off and stay in English politics, which is the country that controls ours, right? Again, I've got nothing against English people, I just detest the government that runs their country and is a parasite of our country, right? And they also are a parasite of all the people of the north. Pretty much, the majority of people from the West Country down in Cornwall Coast, which I love, and an area that I think is the most spectacular, beautiful part of England, next to the Lake District. I mean, besides the Lake District. I prefer it far more than the Lake District. Anyway, getting back on track here. People like George Galloway, although he is saying for, I don't know, everywhere from West Papua to Palestine, he even had the audacity the other day to say that it would be good if Northern Ireland went back to be under Ireland, which I also agree it should join together with Ireland again, because it had no business being part of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, right? It had no business being that. All these political power plays that England did just to keep, basically like a dog that continues to piss on a fence, you know what I mean, or a wall or a rock, just marking its territory all the time. That's all it's about when it comes to the UK, right? The English politicians, the English elite that they serve, and the English corporations, dating back to corporations like the East India Trading Company that had concessions to run slavery even after slavery had been outlawed in the UK. So why would that be the case? I'm mentioning this. Well, if you look at what he's really saying is he wants a border between Europe and the UK. So regardless of what you may say, he is pro-Brexit. He wants to make it easy to govern that border, and the only people, you need to understand the reason for Brexit in the UK is not because this country here and many others that are much better than Britain, or shitting as I like to call it, are robbing from Britain. That's not the case. What's happened is, for years and years, England has decided to not accept money from the EU while giving money hand over fist as a primary contributor, one of the main contributors, like Germany and France. It's been its own choice not to accept economic development funding, which we wouldn't have to pay back, because the fact is that we're a main contributor, right? So we wouldn't be getting ourselves into debt enslavement like other countries have, like Spain and stuff like that. So, same as anti-smoking. You know, when the smoking thing came out, I don't mind anti-smoking, it's cool, it's cleaned up bars a bit. But they kind of blamed it on the EU. They blame a lot of things. I've mentioned the Abu Hamza thing before. Oh, we can't tell this terrorist to fuck off. Look at this beautiful country. Oh my god, it's like a postcard. This is Slovenia. Anyway, the situation with Abu Hamza, all these political things. These were neuro-linguistic programming getting fed into people's minds for the past 10 years. Like, look at the bad stuff the EU gives us. I noticed it. I've noticed it years ago. I mentioned this in my previous YouTube channel, but also on, it can be found if you search through my Facebook, up to 10 years and going longer. Actually all the way back to William Hague talking about save the pound, even back to those days, 1998. But I'm trying to think where I would have mentioned it back then. Yeah, probably only in talks with other people, not anything online. Possibly stuff online, Google groups and stuff like that. I don't know. But I mean, I've been talking about this for a long time and said they're queuing up something. I didn't quite know what it was back then, because I didn't really think about Brexit even being a thing back in the late 90s or the early 2000s. It just seemed. But yeah, this has been a long-term agenda, make no mistakes. And any of you out there who voted Brexit, you need to understand that all you were was useful idiots who were fed propaganda and sucked it all up. Because just because you get sold a reason for doing something, the reasons can be good. I mean, I actually agree with a lot of the reasons for Brexit as well. The problem is, those reasons were not entirely true. Those reasons were, if you take a good debater and you say, right, you've got to argue this side, they will find the points for you to argue that side, and you'll go, oh god, good points, therefore I'm going to vote with him. If they had any brains on the other side, or if they actually had any willpower, you got to remember this mandate comes from the elite and the Queen of the UK herself, because they hide their money from the world in their tax havens. So how do you make an agenda that maintains that money to be kept in secrecy? The only way to do it is to have Brexit. So you come up with reasons and you feed bullshit to the population over the space of God knows how many years. Well, really it's been happening over at least 25 to 30 years, this anti-European bullshit. And it's given us negative things, it's given us good things. The negative sides are the fact that we don't choose the leaders of the EU. But then again, as far as Scotland's concerned, particularly, we don't choose the leaders anyway. We never ever have. England chooses the leaders for us, and even that's debatable because they don't really have democracy in England either. They have a two-party fascist state with a first-past-the-post system, which is undemocratic anyway. Even if you were to discount the whole Scottish, Welsh, and Northern Ireland, the fact that none of those constituent states get their say. Even when it comes to England, it's the way it's split up, similar to the gerrymandering situation in America. It's not really that democratic. Then couple that with the fact that even worse than America, instead of the propaganda that you have through CNN, Fox, MSNBC, CBS, we have much worse propaganda, and it's force-funded media. It's government mouthpiece media. So the whole thing's rigged. Look at this beautiful place. The whole thing's rigged, as Donald Trump said. I think he meant the whole world, and I think he's right. And I'm looking at a house up here today because I'm trying to escape. Well, I've already escaped Great Britain and the USA, the United Corporations of America, and fascist Great Britain. And you know, this seems like the best place to do it. Oh, everywhere you go, it's just beautiful, beautiful. It's like New Zealand without the fact that it's mini America. It's actually controlled. It's actually a stealth. What's it called? Stealth social engineering society, as me and my brother Michael identified way back in the early 90s. We've been red-pilled for a long time. So, and now all those things are coming clear when you can see with the Christchurch massacre, but that's another story. I don't want to get myself deplatformed again on this channel. It's not really my new channel. I've had this one longer than I had the other one. Because I've been on this one's my original account that I didn't use very much until 2017, until I had to. Oh, actually I had videos that are older on it, but not very commonly. Yeah, so back to the point. The fact that he is talking about Northern Ireland. So again, add a new country to the list for that fucktard George Galloway, the fake Scotsman. The guy who's a fantastic orator and can argue any point against anyone, as long as it's for self-serving reasons, of course, under the pretense of some kind of social benevolence that he doesn't possess because he's a fucking shill demon. So what he really wants to do is he wants to usher in this perfect little prison state of the United Kingdom of subjects of people who are owned by the Queen. It's quite disgusting when you think about the whole situation, and he is part of that elite. I can't believe Max Kaiser gave him 1,000 Bitcoin. What were you thinking, mate? Please give me 1,000 Bitcoin so I can fight the bastard. And any money, I bet he's going to put him in, well, if he puts money into the next campaigns of propaganda like J.K. Rowling did, she put in £1 million. And first of all, this is one of those Mandela moments. I heard it was £4 million and then it changed to 1 million. I'm certain it was 4 million. Anyway, Mandela affected. Here we go again. Are you Mandela affected? I am. Seems to be quite a lot. More than I'm comfortable with. So, basically, it's probably the reason why he doesn't want Scottish independence. Because there's no other logical reason. He wants independence for everywhere in the world except for his own country. Against all logic, and even Max Kaiser pointed out when he used to work, he might still work for RT, but I don't think he does. I think he just works for LBC now. So yeah, that's what he wants. He's shown his hand, as all elites do. George Galloway, you're a piece of shit. I've always said you were, since the 1970s. When you and your wee Free Party. I mean, you're fighting against, the what's it called? It was some West Highland thing you had that was it was the people who were the proponents of disallowing the majority democratic election that said we should have devolution, which is on our way to. We only got devolution in 1999 or 1997. 30 years later, 20 years later, sorry. Yeah, 20 years later, because it was 1979, I think it was, where the democratic election was disallowed, and that piece of shit was one of the main opponents against partial independence, which was devolution. So that piece of shit has held our country back at least 30 years, or counting barrels of oil, about 90 billion barrels of oil, or counting the stability of our country, let's say the devastation of our fisheries, let's say the continuous plunder of taxes from everything from video games industry to DNA research to the whiskey trade to golfing to tourism, everything, that piece of shit. And a country like this fantastically beautiful country, look at that castle on top of that mountain. I don't know if you can see in the distance there. I mean, you've got to come. Slovenia's amazing. Lake Bled is just something out of a fairy tale on the west of the country. That piece of shit has held our country back. I can look at a country like this with about 2 million people, which is about 1/3 of the population we have in Scotland. It's about 1/4 the size, and yet this place can be successful and independent, and yet
assholes that I know from Australia and South Africa could be like, oh bro, do you really think Scotland can go it alone? I don't think it can, eh? It's like, what the fuck do you think you are? And this stupid Australian bitch who I used to live with in London, like, oh really? You think you can go it alone? Oh, I don't think so. It's like, who the fuck do you think you are? Your country, unlike South Africa, Australia was almost completely ceded by us. You know what I mean? New Zealand was too, but they haven't got that arrogant attitude because they're smaller than us, so they understand they can be successful. They don't even have the oil reserves and the gas fields and the video games industry and the whiskey trade that we have. See, these assholes would make you believe that Scotland just has oil. No, we have a shit ton of oil, a lot more than Norway have. And with a lot more has been plundered. We've actually produced Norway's only produced about 2/3 of what we have. Our fishing industry used to be more vibrant as well, but England destroyed all that for us. You need to understand they are a total parasite. So when you read all these reports that say that they fund us, that's because they stifle and rape and pillage from our economy. So here's an example. There are 5 refineries in the UK. Guess how many are in Scotland? 1! 4 are in England. They refine our fuel, keeping their people employed. Guess where all the corporate offices are? Yep, you guessed it, down in London. I've got some friends that work for BP, make bloody good money. They'll never hire me, of course, because they obviously find the shit that I do online. I'm a project manager and a bloody good one. I don't work anymore, but when I was working, I could never get work with those guys. Despite you know, working for Aramco, and my dad worked for Aramco back in the 80s too. No. Your plethora, your extensive experience doesn't matter to us because we know that you're anti our company. I don't care. Okay, it would have given me an extra 20-30% as a contractor. I don't give a shit. I earned enough anyway, and I put most of it into Bitcoin. Fuck you all. Oh, the last laugh. Fuck yous. Yeah, see that kind of castle up there? Or might be a church or something? You have that all over this country, man. It's just amazing. Can't wait for the winter time because I'm a bit of a snowball, you know what I mean? So, yeah, that just explains why George Galloway, I've explained why he's a piece of shit before, but this is now where he's finally shown his hand. He let slip that comment on, he was being interviewed by another show on RT the other day, and he let slip that comment, what a piece of shit that he is. So now we know the backstory as to why George Galloway is such a complete fucking hypocrite. Why he makes no sense whatsoever in his crusade to make all of the world independent except for Scotland. One of the oldest white countries in the world, if not the oldest white country in the world, right? I know there's older countries in the Middle East, there might be older countries in Africa, but I'm pretty sure we're the oldest white country in the world. Okay, we've gone through different names and stuff, I don't care. The whole island used to be ours, of course, before the English existed, before the Romans came on board. Before, you know, when I say ours, I'm only part Celtic myself, so I'll say theirs, given the fact that I no longer plan to live in Scotland unless it, look at this beautiful, unless Scotland becomes independent as it should be, unless it stops allowing itself to be raped. And look, I know, even though there's apparently 55% that voted no to independence, of course a lot of that was garnished through lies, telling us that we'd be kicked out of the EU if we didn't vote for independence. Well, guess what, guys? We just got kicked out of the EU because of England. Well done, fucktards who were dumb enough to believe those lies. Hope you're not so stupid next time, eh? But I know a lot of it was actually, a small component of it relied on election fraud. A lot of it relied on those pencil ballots, that's right, pencil ballots, that were spoiled. That only made up a few thousand. I know it was a plethora of things. I know that Google had a hand to play. I showed you at the time, I did a video back in 2000, and it might be on this channel actually, back in 2014. It may have been updated 2016 because the US elections, where I also noticed that Google had a hand to play in that one, the scumbag pieces of shit that they are, and Facebook are fulfilling the same requirements now on behalf of these elite scumbags who have control of the world and all they want to do is pollute and destroy it. perhaps terraform it for their kind. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. But anyway, George Galloway is a complete shill and a piece of shit. He cannot be trusted one iota. He cannot be relied upon to give a true narrative of what is going on. He is giving a false narrative, and he is most certainly, without any shadow of a doubt, sue me, you piece of shit. I don't know. Nah, that's right. Well, let's say I'm going to backtrack. I'm going to say he seemingly is a complete shill, so you can sue me for saying that. I retract what I just said. I will say he seemingly appears to be a complete shill, given the fact that everything he says under cross-examination would suggest that he is a lying scumbag working for a corporate and elite agenda, and perhaps an agenda that stems, well, most likely an agenda that stems from the monarchy, who want to keep their money hidden in the tax havens that are Jersey and Guernsey. By the way, our company private, we got regulated because we're trying to play things right. We are both a decentralized exchange and a centralized one, but we just got a regulatory license from Jersey. Fuck you. I will do exactly, I've always said this, until my country is free, I'm going to use every tax loophole I can. I'm going to behave exactly the same way the elite do. Don't do what they say, do what they do. I've said it in many videos, and I'm practicing what I preach. I'm doing exactly what those motherfuckers do themselves. So yes, we got a regulatory license, but we're also decentralized as well. So we've got to see how that fits into the legalities of that. It may have to be that we separate the exchange and run a separate one from the Cayman Islands entity. Yes, that's right, the Cayman Islands. We do everything those pieces of shit do, and will continue to do. That's why I'm non-domicile tax status, because why should I act differently than the upper 0.01% of UK society who have stuff in the Caymans and stuff in Jersey and bank accounts all over the world? And you know, why shouldn't I do that? They do it. I will always do it until my country's free, and until those pieces of shit, including Google and Starbucks and all those, when they pay all their taxes, then if I live in the UK again full time, which I don't plan to do, I would live in Scotland again full time though, then I would pay my fair share of taxes. But that's 20, 30, 40%. I have and I will pay that. Of course, I paid my taxes the whole time I was in the USA, because you don't fuck with Uncle Sam, because they're a terrorist, a global terrorist entity. You'd be stupid to come against that one. I don't mess with ISIS either, for the same reason. I don't mess with ISIS, Hezbollah, the US government, you know, the Fed, the NSA, and all terrorist organizations. It's not worth it. I'm not worth losing your life over. So, yeah. Of course, the UK is a terrorist organization, but I don't live in it. I play by their rules, and their loopholes are like no other, because they have the biggest level of corruption in the apparent first world, right? Corruption which George Galloway and his cronies protect. Now you know why, right? The whole debacle about the thing that went with, you know, he was a good friend of, they'll pretend he wasn't, good friend of Saddam Hussein's. He defended himself tooth and nail. He's a good, you know, it's like me. I can argue a point. If you tell me, right, you need to make a point why we should destroy the planet, unfortunately I'll probably find some good arguments for it. Let me think off the top of my head. Okay, let's say our purpose in life is not to act, that this planet is let's say this planet is a, what do you call it? Not an illusion, it begins with an S, but I can't think of the word. It's a computer simulation, right? Then I would, and your only goal in life is to make things happen, because we've got to try as many things as we can, because there might be multiple universes, might be multiple simulations, for example. And what we already have is a world like in the Matrix where it's already destroyed, and we're just trying to find a way forward. So whatever you do is not wrong. We got to see what works, and when whatever works will then be applied to the remaining near destroyed world that we have, to make sure that mankind can go ahead and fulfill his destiny of spawning the universe before he destroys himself on this planet that we almost can't get off of, or probably can't get off of for all we know. There you go, there's an argument. You can pull him out your ass as long as the sun shines, you know. But for all I know, this is the only reality we have, and I want to protect the species that we have on here. I want to protect the environment, because these arrogant flat earthers and other people who would say that any theory, even globe theory, is correct and the only way, I cannot stand that kind of that certainty, because it means that you are putting all your eggs in one basket and you're one dumb shit. You've got to assume that this is all we have. Lizards, as some people would call them, the ruling elite of people who are trying to destroy this planet, like George Galloway. They're just so despicable, because they could really end all of us. They could be terraforming this planet for their own kind. Maybe they breathe differently than us, I don't know. But it's a possibility, given the way that they seem to really be so hell-bent on destroying this world, so hell-bent on oppressing people like he wants to do, keeping people in the UK prison camp. It's fucking disgusting. Where's my dog? Can you see him back there? There he is. What a good young man. Anyway, I'll leave it at that. It's long enough. I'll see you later. Yeah, bye.